Hello, good evening and welcome to 3FM 92.7. This is Hot Edition live from our studio here at Adisawe Kanda, Accra. I am Martin Asiedu Dartey. Coming up this evening, government successfully evacuates Ghanaian nationals from Iran to Turkey amid heightening conflict between Israel and Iran. We have details of this for you in a jiffy. Also in the bulletin, National Intelligence Bureau, the NIB, Narcotics Control Commission, and allied security agencies destroy $350 million worth of consignment of cocaine impounded in the central region. And later, Appointments Committee of Parliament dismisses petition against Supreme Court Justice nominee Justice ackah boafo, paving the way for his vetting. And that is one of the key stories we are keeping a close tab on for you, give you highlights of it as well. And later, two key teacher unions expressed disappointment over government's latest decision not to allow school heads to procure grains for students. Details of all these stories and more in a jiffy. Before that though, let's bring you the news summaries.
All right, Martin. Time for the summaries of the top stories today. We begin with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who has said and confirmed the evacuation of a group of Ghanaians from Iran to Turkey following growing tensions between Iran and Israel. Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa stated that the move followed diplomatic talks with Iranian and Israeli ambassadors. Also, a group known as the Concerned Electorate of Ablikma North staged a protest at the Electoral Commission's district office, accusing the Electoral Commission of ignoring concerns raised by the National Democratic Congress, NDC, during the collation of parliamentary results. Then there's also in Parliament, where Parliament's Appointments Committee is expected to vet. They actually vetted Justice Kweku Tewia ackah boafo today. His vetting was temporarily suspended due to a petition filed by Anthony Kwabena Rao, who accused the judge of misconduct in a past case. And then in the Eastern region, police arrested Christopher Sego at Nkrakan for possessing suspected narcotic drugs. The suspect was apprehended on June 17 after officers intercepted a Sprinter bus carrying 5 sacks of maize, within which 78 sellotape balls of suspected Indian hemp were concealed. And that's it for the summaries. Martin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lord Iduasari, with the summaries of the bulletin. Let's delve into the specifics of the key stories we have for you tonight. And we are starting from news about developments far away in the Middle East, where Israel and Iran have been at each other's throat for a number of days now. So beyond the conflict, it looks as though a number of countries already are feeling the brunt of that particular war, and Ghana is no exception. And following that development, the government of Ghana has successfully evacuated a group of Ghanaian nationals from Iran to Turkey, with plans underway to evacuate others currently residing in Israel. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who confirmed the development, said the evacuation followed diplomatic engagements with the Iranian and Israeli ambassadors earlier in the week. He explained that the discussions with Ambassador Ali Gomshi of Iran and Ambassador Roy Gilad of Israel formed part of a broader evacuation effort prompted by the conflict between the two Middle Eastern countries. The minister noted that while evacuations from Iran had proceeded, the situation in Israel remained more complex due to the country's state of emergency and closed borders. In an earlier meeting with the European Union on Monday, the 17th of June, Mr. Ablakwa called for logistical assistance from international partners to support Ghana's evacuation efforts. Meanwhile, a tension between Iran and Israel tension continues between the two countries to shake the global economic, popularly known as the global oil markets. Ghana is beginning to feel the pressure amid growing fears of a global supply crisis. There's more in the News Desk report brought to you now.
Iran is among the 10 largest oil producers globally. Together with Israel, they account for about 5% of the world's crude oil supply. As tensions escalate between the two countries, global oil markets are reacting, and Ghana is starting to feel the impact. In response, President John Mahama has directed the Finance Minister to monitor the situation closely and develop contingency plans to protect the country if the crisis worsens.
Ghana is not immune from the shocks of global events. Recent events in the Middle East, which involve an exchange of missiles between Israel and Iran, have started to escalate crude oil prices dramatically. I've asked our Minister of Finance and Minister of Energy to keep a close eye on the development and model the possible impacts on our petroleum prices and prepare measures to protect the recent gains that we have made.
The major reason for the implementation of the One Ghana Cedi fuel levy was the recent appreciation of the cedi. But now, experts say that even though the Ghana cedi has gained some strength recently, making fuel slightly cheaper, that relief may be short-lived if the conflict persists.
Looking at what is happening in Iran, a lot of world stocks are packed. That is a part for it. And so if that place is blocked, it means that close to 25% of exports of fuel that passes through that route will not come to the international market. Now, when supply is low, it means that there will be shortage. So that shortage is what will increase the price to go up. And so if the cedi is appreciating, then that impact of a high price of fuel in the international market will not be too much felt at the various pumps. But if the cedi continues to depreciate, then it means that it becomes two trouble one pot. And so at the various pumps, the pass-on effect will be massive.
Economist Derek Harcher from the Institute for Energy Security offers a different perspective.
All we have control over is to be able to ensure that our currency is stabilized. And so if we can put in place measures that will ensure that the cedi continues to appreciate, that will be a good thing for us. But in the long run, what can we do? Internally, we can be able to ensure that the Temaro refinery lives up to its standard to be able to refine the petroleum products so we do not depend on the international market. Secondly, if BOST has the capacity, they should be able to expand their tank farm. That will help us to have enough storage capacity. And then the long run is that we can also look at the sub-regions where we have our sister nations, when they have refineries, we can depend on them so that we can source petroleum products from there.
If Brent crude stabilizes around $70 per barrel and the cedi maintains its strength between 10 Ghana cedis and 12 cedis, fuel prices are expected to remain relatively stable, rising only slightly by the end of the year. But in a worst-case scenario, if oil prices climb above $90 and the cedi weakens to 14 to 15 cedis per dollar, domestic fuel prices could surge dramatically. Petrol may rise to between 14 cedis and 16 cedis per litre, with diesel possibly hitting between 15 and 17 cedis per litre.
And you heard that report, which is more or less a summary of what's been happening in the Middle East and its possible impact on the Ghanaian economy. Let's now go to the phone lines now and speak to Professor Daniel Draman Kepo-Sunyehi, who is Senior Research Fellow at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on 3FM.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And also special thanks to dear listeners.
Right. We have been given some clarity on what's happening with Ghanaian nationals living in Iran and Israel for that matter. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs says that there has been a successful evacuation of Ghanaians living in Iran to Turkey. Can you help us understand what goes into such an operation? If, for instance, you need to move a number of nationals, we actually do not even know how many Ghanaians that would be. But if you are to move these group of people from one country to the other under such circumstances, what kind of processes are we looking at?
Yes, in such situations, the normal diplomatic processes will not, like visa issues, consular services may not be the normal pattern. So at the diplomatic level, Ghana ambassador to Iran will talk to the counterpart in Turkey and be able to come out of the compromise. And I'm sure this evacuation, the best made is through road transport. Road transport is the best one because of the conflict situation. So they will be able to waiver visa requirements and those things so that they are able to move Ghanaians there. And in such emergency situations, some other people may even join the Ghana evacuee and move because they may not be Ghanaians, but once they are closer to that, they will also take advantage to move. And likewise, some Ghanaians may also be stranded in some area and could join other countries to move. So this is not a normal pattern of seeking visa to get to Turkey, but this is an emergency situation, and it's handled at the diplomatic level. And I'm sure that Ghana diplomat and that of the Turkey government and diplomatic people in Turkey have ironed out these differences. And they all know the emergency situation. They know this is a very complex situation that we will not be able to follow the normal processes. And so they all create room for this situation so that they are able to move the people to safe land, safe areas.
So help us understand, are you able to tell us what key logistical and diplomatic hurdles Ghana could face in also trying to get its citizens out? I think of the two countries, the one that is suffering the most in terms of the war would be Iran. And the minister is saying we've been able to get our people out of Iran. Maybe Israel is relatively okay, so plans are now being put in place to evacuate Ghanaians in case the situation worsens. But in this process, you've told us that they might waive the compulsory visa checks, passport checks, etc., and then just quicken the process. But are there other bottlenecks or logistical challenges you think the country could face regarding this?
Yes, certainly the issue of, I think, government and the situation, most of the countries, if you take the case of Pakistan and the other countries, they are doing it by road. So I'm sure that our Ghana diplomatic staff, especially ambassador there, will make arrangements for transport owners. Usually they rely on transport owners to be able to contingency measures. Sometimes you may not have the money to be able, but you will strike with them, having lived in Tehran. They might have some networks that will support them to be able to deal with some transport companies, whether Iranian state-led transport or private sector. That is that kind of arrangement they'll put in place so that they are able to move them. And later, once they move to safe zone, these other payments will come in there. Obviously, government of Ghana does not have this transport at its disposal. So they will liaise with the state, Iranian state, and some private companies. And that is how to be done. If other ambassadors who live in Ghana, they know the transport system in Ghana, they can go for states like STC, they could go for VIP. So I'm sure that our ambassadors in Iran and Tehran, for instance, they are privy to some of these things. It's all about going to talk to them, is able to let them know that this is an emergency situation. They should support us with their transport, their buses, so that we can move our people to safe land. And the state of Ghana is capable to settling all the outstanding issues. This is one of the clearest and the most appropriate way that Ghana diplomatic mission in Tehran will explore to get out of this situation.
Right. And then there's the concern about Ghana's decision. I mean, like considering our foreign policy, how do you think we need to navigate this current conflict? I mean, there are already concerns about some of the utterances of the Israeli ambassador in Ghana, but we'll come to that particular one shortly. Talk to us about how Ghana can better navigate the foreign policy principles of non-aligned movement and the multilateralism when you are now dealing with two countries that are against each other.
Yes, I think Ghana, traditionally since the era of our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana has actually assumed that non-aligned position, not aligning to the Western Bloc, not aligning to the Eastern Bloc. That foreign policy hasn't changed. Under the current government led by His Excellency John Mahama, is still the same pattern. The foreign minister, they are still pursuing the same traditional foreign policy that Ghana should not be seen aligning to the Iran, not so much aligning to Israel. I think that is always the smartest and is a smart diplomacy, so that we will call for de-escalation of the conflict, and that is how non-aligned position should be. Ghana might not necessarily make a statement that Ghana is in support of Iran or Ghana is against Israel. I think that we should be mindful of our traditional non-aligned position and still go by that. And I think our Minister of Foreign Affairs in any response, they should still be reminded of our traditional foreign policy, not to align to any of that. And this is Israel, which is more aligned to the West, and Iran, which is more by apolitical, its foreign policy orientation. Iran is more tilted towards the East, an ally of Russia, ally of China. So Ghana is very much aware of these dimensions, and going that way to please Russia and China could also mean that Ghana might be displeasing U.S. and its allies on the other side, who generally seems to be in line with Israel. So the best is for Ghana to maintain the non-align. We must not align to any of the warring factions. We should rather take a position of hoping to see how we can find an amicable solution to this conflict. That should be the position I think Ghana should go for.
That brings me to the question of what exactly the Israeli ambassador to Ghana has been saying, where he criticized Ghana's voting at the United Nations, asking for a complete ceasefire of the war between Israel and Gaza, or the Palestinian state in Gaza. So he says that we should have voted in support of Israel, but the minister has responded firmly, indicating that we are a sovereign nation and we know our left from the right in terms of which issues we stand behind and which issues we disagree with. Does that come to you as a surprise following the concern raised by the minister and the fact that the Israeli ambassador to Ghana is saying that we should have voted in support of Israel?
Yes, so obviously we expect an Israeli ambassador to Ghana to tell Ghana to go in the way of Israel. That is a normal one in diplomatic practice. But Ghana, as a sovereign state, has the right to decide whether to go that way or the other. And Ghana is not necessarily condemning Israel. It's the case of the matter they are looking at, the atrocities, the suffering of the Gaza people, the humanitarian crisis there. So absolutely, I think the government is right to be on the side of the Palestinians. At this critical moment, the government has taken the right position, and Israel, I think that all this right to self-defense, I think we have overextended it. So I think Ghana's position is apt and it's appropriate. Don't also forget of it that Ghana does not have a very fixed station. And remember when the attack came from Gaza against Israel, Ghana condemned that. They condemned the Hamas for attacking Israel. And that is still the same Ghana. Today, it's on the other side. They are also condemning the Israelis. For me, I think it's appropriate. And at the point when Ghana see the need to go in for this, they will take it. As any point Ghana think there's a need to align with the Israelis, Ghana will go that way. And Ghana, as an independent state, we are to take a decision based on the issues on the ground. And I think that government has not really erred by voting the way they did.
Okay, my final question would still hover on the issues of the United Nations. Where is the United Nations? Are they just a talk shop or an institution that just talks and passes policies but are unable to take concrete, decisive actions? Because, the question is stemming from the fact that what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, the UN has just been voting for or against an issue. Then we have Israel and Palestine. The UN still seem to be just holding meetings and upon meetings. Now we have Israel attacking, taking their steps to attack another sovereign nation. In all of this, the United Nations seem to be just holding several meetings and just cautioning and imploring Israel not to do so. What is the relevance of the United Nations in all of this? And do we actually have a body that can actually hold any country, for that matter, be the US or not, if they are flouting the UN Charter?
Yes, this is a difficulty that we have. I will maintain the position that no matter how perceived weak UN is, I don't think that is still relevant. As long as it's a place that our representatives meet, take a resolution, condemn one point or the other, I think that is very relevant. It's just that the UN Security Council is being faced with a challenge because of the veto power of some five veto members. And that is what is crippling. That is making Security Council not being able to take prompt decisions. And remember, if all Security Council members vote yes, and one of the veto members say no. For instance, U.S., which has always, in most cases, stand in for Israel. There no votes, make the whole decision null and void. It won't hold. It won't be able. It will not be binding. And so that is the veto power that is crippling the Security Council in taking decision. And as we said, many have called for reforms, many have called for it to be scrapped, others are calling for it to be expanded. These are all problems. If you scrap it, maybe other development will come. But I think that if they scrap it, then that you can see all the sovereign states taking one vote, taking a decision, and that could be verified. But others will even say that if it's even scrapped, other challenges will come in there. So I think UN still remain relevant. Even though UN Security Council is not able to take decision, it's still very relevant. And at least since the formation of UN, we haven't encountered a third world war. And that shows that UN Security Council or UN as a body is still relevant. Remember, the League of Nations couldn't have stopped the war that was the Second World War, and that was how it became redundant. So in the event that UN Security Council failed to take prompt measures, prevent certain wars, prevent all these things, and in the event that a Third World War occurs, at that point we might then be compelled to say that UN as a body has outlived its usefulness, and maybe people call for a different international body that will be the mouthpiece of all governments of the world. But until that, I think the UN Security Council or UN as a body is irrelevant. Even as we go to talk, it might not just be a talk show, but some of the resolutions have an effect, even if it's not binding, but it has an effect on the aggressive state to watch out. And that is still very important.
Thank you so much for your thoughts and expertise on these issues. Professor Daniel Draman Kipo-Sunyehi, we are always happy to hear you speak to us on these issues. You heard the thoughts of Senior Research Fellow at the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, Professor Daniel Draman Kipo-Sunyehi, on the current conflict between Israel and Iran, and by extension, Israel and the state of Palestine, I should say, where a number of other countries are already feeling the pressure of the fight between these countries already. Ghana the President of the Republic has asked the finance minister and the minister in charge of energy to start looking for alternative places Ghana can get fuel, because Iran is a major transport hub for a lot of the fuel that we use as a country, and many other countries depend on Iran as a transport yard, or as a thoroughfare or a pass-through for fuel use. And when this war continues, it is likely to have an impact on how we get our fuel, and by extension affect fuel pumps, the pumps at the fuel, and then also how much you have to pay for fuel. So it's a very concerning issue globally, but although it is far away from us in the Middle East, it looks as though we need to start bracing ourselves. But the good news, however, is that Ghanaians that are in Iran have been evacuated successfully to a neighboring country. The minister says they've been moved to Turkey, and hopefully in the coming days we'll get to know how quickly they can move to Ghana. Those in Israel, though, because of the current situation, the minister says that they are still in Israel, but we are keeping close tabs on how soon. If the issue escalates, then it means we should be expecting Ghanaians to be brought from Israel as well, probably through Europe, then into Ghana. This is still 3FM 92.7. You're listening to Hot Edition, and we are live from our studio here at Adisanwe Kanda in Accra. Let's know what you also make of that particular development. I'm sure many of you have also been following how the bombing and the impact, the chaos that this war is having on human lives. Do share your thoughts with us on our various social media pages. My handle is at @NewsMartin, Martin, and I'll be happy to reshare or read some of your messages before the show goes to an end. On to some other stories now, and the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Kofi-Boa has announced that the government is rigorously engaged in reclaiming and revegetating illegally mined areas. He emphasized that punishment for illegal mining perpetrators will be strictly enforced. Responding to questions in Parliament today, the minister revealed that 8 out of the 9 red zone mining areas have been successfully reclaimed. He also addressed the tragic incident in Mpasetia Yao Nkwanta, where near the Ichumampunya district, Ashanti region, where 2 people died following the collapse of an illegal mining pit earlier this year. Let's listen to the minister when he was in Parliament and addressed the House.
Illegal mining is a persistent challenge which has polluted our water bodies, degraded our arable lands, and decimated our forest reserves. So, Speaker, in the recent incident in the Swaman constituency, 2 people inadvertently fell in a Galamsey pit and lost their lives. These recent happenings have sparked public outrage, and immediate measures are being put in place to curb this menace. So, Speaker, the immediate measures include reclamation and revegetation program. The government is engaging in the reclamation of illegally mined out areas in the constituency and other affected areas to avoid such occurrences. Community engagement and education. The ministry has intensified community engagement and awareness creation on the effects of illegal mining. We have engaged the district assemblies and traditional authorities to come together and help in this fight. Law enforcement. Punishment for perpetrators of this heinous crime will be strictly enforced as is being done, and to ensure deterrence to other miners who engage in this activity. We are also strengthening licensing and regulation. So, Speaker, we are also focusing on geologically investigated areas with very good prospects to ensure that miners will get mine out areas that are very lucrative for them to mine, so that we can prevent this random digging and this risk we face. I thank you. Yes, the ministry through the Minerals Commission is able to regulate legal miners, small-scale miners that have legal licenses. But that's why we call these activities illegal. These are illegal activities, and those faceless people who do it are unknown. And so we continue to work with the district assemblies and authorities to apprehend them and make sure they are punished, make sure that we can get them to recover these areas. And we will continue to do so. I thank you. Honourable Speaker, as I stated, we are engaged in a very aggressive program. First, to reclaim all these degraded land, to minimize those risks. We are also working on a program for cooperative mining to identify mineralized areas and organize mining in a very sustainable and responsible manner. We believe that those steps will help address the concerns that has been raised. I thank you. Honourable Speaker, I think that this is when people engage in illegality and it results in the death of human beings, that becomes a matter of police investigation, and the right institutions are on top of this. I thank you. As the President recently stated, we are under no illusion that illegal mining activities that is widespread in more than 5 regions, that is engaging by almost 3 million people, will come to an end in 4 months. But we are very proud of the steps we have taken and the progress we are making. We are very proud to have reclaimed 8 out of 9 red zones that were not tackled for over 3 years. We are very proud of the active collaboration we are having with the community leaders, and we'll continue to make the progress and make sure mining is done responsibly and sustainable in Ghana. Speaker, I think my statement was very clear. This government and the people of Ghana can testify that the load that we were sunk in, this government in the last 4 months is really making progress, and will continue to make progress to ensure that we can do mining responsibly and sustainably in Ghana.
So that's the voice of Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, who is the Minister in charge of Lands and Natural Resources, when he was in Parliament answering questions to the regarding how far the ministry has gone as regards the fight against illegal mining and whether or not people have been affected. And he indicated that a few months ago, some 2 individuals lost their lives when a pit they were working in illegally collapsed, and says that has also added that government is going the extra mile to try to ensure that they are able to fight this illegal mining effectively. So and then the concern also has to do with the fight against illegal mining, not just in one particular region, but then across the country. And reports coming in, he says that 9 red zones, which are forest areas that many people have invaded and are mining illegally, 8 out of the 9 zones have been reclaimed by government, and they are working assiduously to reclaim the land and revegetate the land by planting trees and putting in an extra effort to ensure that we get those lands back to their original green state. So we are shifting our attention to, well, we stay on the subjects now, and Darobosu, who is an advocate when it comes to issues regarding, land degradation and the fact that we need to protect our forest reserves and water bodies, has joined us on his thoughts on this particular development that the minister has been talking about in Parliament. Mr. Bosu, good evening. Thank you very much. I mean, I know Arucha Ghana would definitely be happy with the efforts government is putting in, although more is required. But what do you make of the fact that the minister is saying that 8 out of the 9 red zones have been reclaimed by the state?
Good evening to you as well, and thank you very much for having me. I don't know whether I am happy or not concerning the reports from the Honorable Minister, because yes, as they report, these forest reserves initially were fully under the control of some gangs and some thugs who were actually preventing the Forestry Commission staff from going in to do their work. So if the government says that they have reclaimed the area from these thugs, then that is good news. I am not sure about the action being taken to restore the forest cover in those areas, because the damage in these areas is not something you can do within such a short time, and it would require really a lot of investment. So, I know that, yes, we've been able to take back the forest, but we also know that these tags, it's just on and off. They go and come. They go reinforce themselves. You sack them, they go and come back. So I think we shouldn't be too happy yet, because I really think that the information we have from the ground is that, look, yes, the people are no longer there as they used to be, but they are not completely out of these areas. So we need to be very careful, and I think we shouldn't give them any space. We should be relentless. We should hit them hard, make sure that they go and they never come back. At the moment, they're just playing hide and seek with our state agencies that are on the ground trying to prevent them from the damage that they are causing to our forest reserves.
I hear you talk about how we can sustain the fight, and although we are able to get the people out of the illegal mining areas, like you indicate, they are almost always likely to wait a while. When the forces leave, then they return. So your concern really is about sustainability. But as someone who's followed this space for these number of years, how do you advise government can sustain the fight?
You see, I think that where we are now, these guys who are on the ground with the excavators, they're also learning. They're learning from the way the state agencies who are enforcing the law are working. As we know, these people now tend to work in the night. They know that if you come and sack them from the area, you go back and you give one a day or two, they'll also go back behind you and do all of that. And that is why we are saying, look, knowing that these people are deliberately returning to the site you sacked them from, why don't you place military officers permanently in these areas? Resolve them for some time. And this is why we've been calling for a state of emergency in some of these hotspots, where these people have stationed themselves, have become so empowered, and they work with impunity and play hide and seek with our state law enforcement agencies. So I think that the government should see the reason why we are calling for a state of emergency. But whether you like it or not, these guys, when you go back to Accra, they will return more reinforced and will keep doing them. So I ask myself, how long are we going to keep doing this back and forth with these illegal miners who seem to know how the enforcement agencies are working and always find a way to return? And until we put in a lasting deterrent measure, we have said that in the forest reserve, anybody working there, the excavators must be banned. No investor will be a double fool to go back and say, look, I got my excavator bent in this forest reserve, I'll go back again. Nobody will do that. We are just playing hide and seek, trying to convey confiscated excavators back to town, and then somebody will find a way to release them and back into them. So I think that the government should see the reason why there's a clarion call for a state of emergency, which we are saying that not across every area, but in those specific hotspots, those areas that are troublesome hotspots that you need to place people that use intelligence, use surveillance, drones, and all of that. Station people permanently there for at least 3 months, and then watch the behavior and see them confiscate and destroy. That is the only way we can deal with it. Otherwise, as it will continue, eventually somebody will get tired. And I know it's not going to be the miners.
Right. Mr. Bosu, I would want you to kindly hold on for me, because it looks as though Ghana really wants to take this fight seriously, to the extent that the Foreign Affairs Minister on a trip to China recently, where there was a China-Africa summit, met with the mayor of one of the towns in China, where we are told that many of the galamseyers or the Chinese nationals do come from. And when he went there, he engaged them and told them about the new government and how stringent they are when it comes to issues of these galamsey. So kindly indulge me. Let's listen to Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the Foreign Affairs Minister. Then I'll pick your thoughts on what this means in the fight against the illegal mining.
Sure.
What we frown against, what we will not accept, is if you come to our country, you flout our laws, you destroy our environment, our river bodies. We know some of your Ghanaian is internationally known for mining. You have a lot of interest in gold, and you are a mining expert. If you do legal mining, responsible mining, we don't have any issue with you. You will be our friend. But if you come and engage in illegal mining, irresponsible mining, and you destroy our river bodies, you destroy our forests against Ghanaian law, and putting our lives at risk, as for that, you won't be our friend. And we are going all out against our own nationals, Ghanaians, who are doing the wrong things in the mining sector. So if we are going after Ghanaians, how much more foreigners?
How much more foreigners? All right, so that's the voice of Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the Foreign Affairs Minister, when he was in Nanning. That's the name of the province in China, Nanning, where we are told that many of them are into mining. So your thoughts on this, Mr. Bosu?
Yes, I really have to commend the Honorable Foreign Affairs Minister for taking the steps, because within the diplomatic circles, these discussions are very important. We know that sometimes certain countries have some economic wealth that they control around and even sometimes influence the way some laws are implemented in certain countries. And so this approach by the government to engage with China at this level is very, very important. But I need to say that at the end of the day, when the Chinese decide to come to the country, even how they enter the country, the mission why they are coming to the country, it's eventually up to us to let them in or not. Now, when they are in the country and they are moving about and we see them engaging in certain activities, I mean, some will be good, some will be bad, just like any other foreigner in this country, it is also up to us as Ghanaians to let our laws work. But this is where then you ask yourself, are we implementing our own laws as we have claimed it is? So I believe that at the end of the day, you go through this diplomacy, you go to talk about it in China. At the end of the day, the work needs to be done by us Ghanaians. This is our land. We run the law enforcement agencies. We set our own laws. We enforce our own laws. I think that the bigger responsibility lies with us as Ghanaians, lies with our immigration officers, lies with our police officers, lies with every RISEC and DISEC group in this country. We need to keep our eyes on the ground and ensure that it doesn't matter what country you come from, you do the right thing. You live by the rule of law. Now, the interesting thing we all need to understand that everything that we claim the Chinese are doing in this country, there's no way they will allow us to go and do same in their country. So if the Chinese are getting misbehaving in this country, it's because we are allowing them to be. And so I believe that the bigger responsibility lies with us as Ghanaians to ensure that we let our laws work. We can never blame the Chinese for what is happening here. The responsibility lies with us. So I think it's about time we sit up, own our own responsibility, own our own mistakes, and deal with it. All the Chinese can do is to offer support. On their side, when there are issues, they can offer support. If you want even them to support them with some intelligence, equipment, they can offer support. But it is up to us, not them, to deal with the recalcitrant nature of some of their own people who travel across many parts of the world trying to look for jobs or to settle or to do many things. So I think the responsibility is after. So we shouldn't really put the blame on the Chinese if we think that they have a role to play. No.
Most grateful for your time this evening, and
as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You heard the voice of Daryl Boso, who is the Deputy National Coordinator of Arocha, Ghana. Now, they are one of the key state institutions, one of the key civil society institutions at the forefront fighting against illegal mining, and it's a broader conversation that has now even gotten to the extent that Foreign Affairs Minister has had to also lend support to the Minister in charge of Lands and Natural Resources, and by extension the National Security Ministry, as well as the other relevant agencies that all have to play a role if we want to get our water bodies and our rivers and forests clean or devoid of illegal mining activities. So he addressed the vice mayor of the Nanning community, who is in the person of Guo Wei, that's his name. He was with the Chinese delegation when the Foreign Affairs Minister met them in China and spoke about the impact of the illegal activities that people from Nanning are having when it comes to Ghana. So he's asking for further assistance, especially from the Chinese. And like you heard Daryl Bosu say, a lot of the lifting, the heavy lifting, depends on Ghana, right from all our state institutions, immigration, right through the police, the military, and then the regular citizens and people living in the communities where these activities take place. We all need to ensure that any foreigner who comes through the right procedure, follows their right rules and regulations if they want to undertake any kind of business within our jurisdiction. Because, again, Ghanaians cannot go to any part, not even the remotest part of China, and go and misbehave. So if citizens come from that place, we, the citizens here in Ghana, need to also assist government in whichever way possible, because the water bodies, the forest reserves are ours, and we cannot allow foreigners to destroy them. But most of the heavy lifting or the major work depends on us. And like the Foreign Affairs Minister indicated, if Ghanaians are even being chased or arrested and prosecuted, how much more a foreigner or an outsider? So it's an interesting play on how the issues are playing out before us, and we'll see how it comes out in the coming days. You're still listening to 3FM 92.7. Let's go to another very concerning subject, which is the arrest of some individuals who had cocaine, a consignment of cocaine on them in the central region, which we are told was impounded and has been destroyed. The National Intelligence Bureau, the NIB, the Narcotics Control Commission, and allied security agencies have destroyed a $350 million consignment of cocaine that was impounded by the National Intelligence Bureau operatives in the central region. The destruction was carried out following a court order. Stanley Nibleu from the newsroom, who has been following the development, reports that 3 individuals linked to the consignment are currently facing prosecution.
In March this year, the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, intercepted consignment in the central region suspected to be cocaine, with an estimated street value of $350 million. The drugs were concealed in a tipper truck covered with sand and en route to Accra from the western region. Laboratory analysis confirmed that the seized cocaine weighed 3,319.68 kilograms and had a purity level ranging between 50 and 70%. The consignment is believed to have entered the country via sea using fishing vessels. 3 suspects are currently on trial for importing narcotics without lawful authority and engaging in prohibited drug-related activities. Following a court directive, a joint team from the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, Narcotics Control Commission, NACOC, and allied agencies carried out the destruction of the narcotics at Bundasi in the Greater Accra region. The exercise was also witnessed by a delegation from the Attorney General's Office, international observers, and counsel for the accused persons linked to the cocaine. Other impounded drugs included heroin, cannabis, red 225 tablets, several cartons of codeine, and additional quantities of cocaine seized from different locations were also destroyed. Before the incineration, personnel from the Ghana Standards Authority conducted on-site field tests. Using cobalt thiocyanate reagents and hydrochloric acid, the cocaine sample turned blue, confirming its authenticity. Tests on the cannabis also proved positive. The consignments were then set ablaze under tight security. Director General of the Narcotics Control Commission, Brigadier General Maxwell Obuba Mante, said the destruction exercise was part of activities marking this year's International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking. He added that a nationwide crackdown on illegal drug operations will be carried out next month.
My simple message to those who perpetrate or who are involved in this illicit drug business is that it is not fair to the country. We will not stand idly by and allow them to bring in these illicit drugs to destroy our future leaders. From next month, we'll be conducting special operations and we'll go after them.
The destruction of the massive cocaine haul serves as a stern warning to drug traffickers and affirms Ghana's commitment to combating narcotic crimes. As prosecutions continue, security agencies are intensifying efforts to dismantle drug networks and prevent the country from being used as a transit point for illicit substances.
And you heard that report by Stanley Nibleu, and if you are wondering the amount again, it is $350 million worth of cocaine that was seized by the National Intelligence Bureau in partnership with the Narcotics Control Commission and other allied security agencies. Let's, that amount is quite substantial, isn't it? $350 million, not 1, not 2 million. And how did this even get to the country, considering the fact that Ghana does not produce cocaine? So how did all of this get into our jurisdiction, and what other steps can the security agencies help with in terms of preventing it from spreading or ensuring that it does not even come into our territorial body at all? Richard Kumado is a security consultant and has joined us for a quick conversation on this. Mr. Kumado, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you.
I'm wondering how this huge amount of cocaine could get into our country. And I mean, many would have thought probably even in the Greater Accra region, which is the capital, is where this would have been found. But we are told that it was found or it was impounded in the central region. First of all, do we know how these cocaine, how does cocaine even get into the country? Do the intelligence agencies know?
Okay, so now we are talking about central region, predominantly came through the sea. And you know the basic task for the security agencies is to safeguard Ghana by land, by air, and by sea. And what they have done these days is that because the point of entry at the airports are becoming very difficult for them to penetrate, right from Aflao to Adan, where I live, you come to the sea And you will see these boats all over the sea, and they are either doing cocaine or they are doing weed. And so I'm not surprised this huge sum of quantity of cocaine has been seized at the central region. They definitely came to the sea, which then raised the question whether our Navy has the capacity with the boat they will need to be able to do effective monitoring at the sea. Until we are able to do that, then we will have to depend on the men and women as informants to help us in that regard.
When this amount comes into the country, is it because we are just a transit port, or we actually have people who are consumers of this product, the cocaine?
Martin, ask the question again, please.
So I'm asking that, is it that Ghana is just a transit nation, the consignments pass through Ghana, or we actually have people in the country that are consumers, and that when it does come into the country, it stays in this country?
Definitely. The levels of consumption is huge. Our young people are not just on red, they are on weed and they are on cocaine, and that is the danger we face as a nation going forward. If nothing is done about it from the leadership of politics, from the church, from the traditional authority, from community development leadership, and from all that, our young people are being destroyed. And it will have very huge ramifications on us as a developing country who will need the youth in order to turn up productivity. The consumption levels are high. And Martin, one of the things we also don't have in this country is centers for rehabilitation. What we have in asylum, those ones are not proper centers where you can rehabilitate people and they will come back to themselves and take up the matter again. We will be thinking from the social point of view to put up a lot of rehabilitation centers just like you have in the U.S. and many other places. Other than that, the levels of the consumption we are seeing means that there will be negative impact on our young ones.
And so now we've seen these ones impounded and destroyed. Going forward, how do you advise the security agencies deal with it? Is it possible that they can track the roots of or the sources of these cocaine, and then maybe try and find how they can prevent it from even getting into our borders?
I agree with you perfectly. It's one of them. The second one is that investigation and arrest is the second one. The third one is prosecution. As a country, we lack the motivation to prosecute crime. Why people are emboldened to commit all manner of crimes and get away with it. Then the last one is that we have been ranked highly as a high-risk destination across many ports or across many centers in the West. The reason being that we are not able to confiscate assets obtained from some of these crimes. And people commit these crimes, they acquire a lot of assets. We are not able to confiscate the assets, not alone prosecution. To that extent, they come out and they enjoy the booty and they recruit many more people into it. And that is where they take it from. So I think we are not doing so well when it comes to confiscation of assets from criminals or from people who engage in some of these crimes. We are not also succeeding in prosecuting them. But do you blame them? The courts are overwhelmed, limited number of judges, limited number of lawyers, and crime levels are going up, which means that at the foundation level, we are not doing something right in terms of social cohesion and the nature we have been engaging as Africans. Things have changed very fast, and we will need to look at it again.
And finally, do we have punitive sanctions for people who engage in this? And if we do, have people actually been dealt with by the law to the extent that it is deterrent enough to get people not wanting to even get close into this kind of deals?
Definitely we have laws, but the deterrence measures are not so severe. So people can afford to get involved and come out and enjoy their booty, and nothing is done to them. The state cannot confiscate as much as possible. The state cannot prosecute criminals in this regard as much as possible. And those lack of those tendencies, it means that there are not enough deterrence in this particular area. And we will need to look at it again as a nation.
Mr. Kumado, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
And you heard the voice of Richard Kumado, who is a fraud and security consultant, sharing his thoughts on the $350 million worth of cocaine that was impounded in the central region and is subsequently been destroyed. If you watch News 360 at 7 o'clock on TV3, you would see the visuals or the videos of how the cocaine, after being confirmed by the Standards Authority, were burnt or destroyed, and then 3 individuals, we are told, are facing trial on this particular issue. So we would also move on to some other stories. Remember that this is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, live around the world on 3news.com. That's our website, and we are going on to some other stories now. You know that there have been some vettings. The last 3 days have seen some Supreme Court nominees being vetted in Parliament. Well, today, one of the key individuals who had some controversy surrounding whether or not he should be vetted finally went through vetting, and I'm going to bring you that story right now. So a Supreme Court nominee, Justice Kwekutewia Akaboafo, has clarified that the Attorney General does not commit any breach in providing information on cases being prosecuted. He has rather cautioned prosecutors to be measured in their public commentary on cases under investigation, warning that any prejudicial remarks could compromise fair trial standards. Christian Yali sat through the proceedings in Parliament and has come through with his report.
Justice Kweku Akaboafo was responding to growing concerns about how the Attorney General has been handling public communications on high-profile investigations. For many, his decision to announce criminal charges in the media before such cases are brought before the court raises serious questions. But Justice Akaboafo says such public engagement must not undermine the law.
This society has grown a bit sophisticated and want to receive information. If the Attorney General takes the position that these are matters that I ought to place before the public to be aware of, it may be within the context of providing information. But if the Attorney General goes ahead to make comments alluding that the person is already guilty, in my view, that will be a breach of the Constitution.
He expressed deep concern over the shortage of legal practitioners in Ghana and called for the urgent training of more lawyers.
From the Ghana Bar Association portal, as I asked around, you see practicing lawyers will be about 8,000. To that extent, there are not enough lawyers in Ghana, because if you look at our population, then you have about 2,000 people to a lawyer.
He was the last to be vetted among the 7 nominees appointed to the Apex Court.
The report will be put together, laid on the floor of Parliament, and then we take the motions leading to the adoption of the motion, and then the consequential approval of the judges or disapproval of the judges by the House.
Bernard Ahiafo also explained the reasoning behind their decision to throw out a petition against the nomination of Justice Kwekutewia Akaboafo.
Any person guided by all those considerations that regulate the conduct of human affairs with a little legal knowledge, looking at the petition and the reference, will come to a conclusion that the petition is frivolous, is vexatious, is unmeritorious, is worthless, it is baseless in law and the facts.
The minority leader, Alexander Fenyomakin, while agreeing with the decision, did not shy away from mentioning the suspended Chief Justice's case.
We have one Daniel Ofori who refers to a judgment which the Chief Justice was involved as a basis for attacking the woman and calling for her removal. If you also read Yakubu Akogo Ayamga, similar frivolous allegations are made. These 2 scenarios have been deemed to constitute a prima facie case amounting to misconduct, and the Chief Justice of the Republic is on suspension as a result of this.
After long hours of tough questioning, the vetting of Justice Kwekutewia Akaboafo ended in a rather light-hearted moment when the minority leader, who is ranking on the committee, asked him to recite the national pledge.
I promise on my honor to be faithful
and loyal
to Ghana, my motherland. Thank you.
I promise to hold in high esteem our heritage won for us through the blood and toil of our fathers. Exactly. I promise to hold in high esteem. So
Have you seen the way you are
because I am helping. If you don't, the man, look, stop. Chairman, put off your mic. This is, look at, okay, if I'm struggling, can you do it? If I'm struggling, I have made an attempt.
That is why I am not making an attempt.
Then allow me, I would want to make an attempt.
Because I don't want to struggle.
Don't worry, I would want to boldly make an attempt. When I make a mistake, I be corrected.
The Supreme Court has 13 judges on its bench. Once these 7 are approved, the number would rise to 21. That has been a matter of debate following proposals by some of the nominees that the number be capped at 20, which some do not agree with.
And you hear that report put together by Christian Yali, who was reporting from Parliament. So that's it for the first part of the bulletin. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Time now, though, for the latest in the world of business. But before business, we'll bring you some major announcement that you need to hear about. This is 3FM 92.7.
Journey of Pan-Africanism and consciousness. It is your regular taxi driver with the urban blend and 3FM 92.7 in living stereo every day, Monday to Friday from 12:30 p.m. till 3 p.m. This is the show everybody listens to, so your business will certainly do well here. My name, Black Rasta. I am the rootical, hairtical, Don Gargan, Mua Fire. Come forward. Atinga ya chika fankare, Azure ya chika fankare, Abama ta chika fankare.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Business News on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Coming up tonight, Bank of Ghana cautions on rising cyber threats as over 21,000 fraud attempts target Ghana's financial sector in a year. This story and others lined up for you. Please stay with me. I am Bismarck. Let's settle for the details. First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Zachary Mumuni, has raised fresh concerns over the growing wave of cyber-related crimes targeting digital financial platforms across the continent. Interpol estimates show that cybercrime is now costing Africa over $4 billion annually, with most attacks directed at mobile money, digital banking, and fintech systems. Speaking at the 2025 African Financial Inclusion Policy Initiative meetings in Accra, Dr. Zachary Mumuni warned that such threats are becoming more complex and damaging in the face of expanding digital innovation, hence the need for a stronger regulatory collaboration across the continent.
Cybercrime is not a distant risk. It is a present danger. In 2022, for instance, in Ghana alone, we recorded over 21,000 cyber fraud attempts in the financial sector, most targeting digital platforms. Across Africa, the cost of cybercrime is estimated to have exceeded $4 billion annually. This reality underscores a simple truth. Financial inclusion without system integrity is unsustainable. Cybersecurity is no longer an IT issue. It is a strategic imperative at the core of financial governance. Public trust, institutional confidence, and systemic stability now hinge on our ability to anticipate, withstand, and respond to cyber risks.
And that was First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Zachary Mumuni. Meanwhile, Chief Executive of the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, Dr. Alfred Hanig, has urged African central banks to collaborate to build more inclusive and resilient financial systems amid global uncertainties and threats.
Cyber attacks in Africa have increased by nearly 150% in the past year. Reported losses from cybercrime in Africa now reach billions of dollars. 58% of Africans now say that they are very concerned about cybercrime, up from just 29% 2 years ago. I think this is a clear signal why I think we want to work on the cyber threats are escalating to systemic levels. They are targeting core financial infrastructure, and they are threatening to erode the trust that we have built with so much effort over the past years. They disrupt markets, and they reverse, and this is, I think, a real threat. They actually reverse the gains of what we have achieved in financial inclusion over the years.
You heard Chief Executive of the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, Dr. Alfred Hanig. Financial economist Professor Ebenezer Bugri Anafo has renewed calls for government to invest in renewable energy to shield the economy from global shocks, citing the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict, which has led to crude oil price hikes. Professor Anafo emphasized the need to build domestic resilience against such shocks. With fuel prices having dropped substantially last month, fears of another price hike are looming, highlighting the importance of diversifying Ghana's energy mix to reduce vulnerability to global market fluctuations and promote economic stability.
Supply of oil, and Ghana, we are so much dependent on imported oil. So as a country, we need to, as much as possible, invest more in renewable energy as a backup, because if we don't start investing in renewable energy and we are affected by oil supplies, the country is likely going to face energy crisis. Another way that we can also plan towards this disruption of global oil supply is for Ghana to also expand our oil refinery. The oil refinery needs to be expanded to be able to produce more refined oil for us. If we do the right investment in the oil refinery, I think that it can be as a buffer in the event that we are not getting the needed imported oil. Thank you.
And that was financial economist Professor Ebenezer Bugri Anafo. Now, government is set to issue 4.55 billion cedis in treasury bills under tender 1960 today, June 20, 2025. This target represents a notable decrease of 3.03 billion cedis from the 7.58 billion cedis sought in the previous auction on June 13, 2025, signaling a recalibration of the government's near-term funding strategy. And that will be all for the business news on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, s3news.com. Up next is sports with Bill Leshen. Please stay.
Ghana, the road is calling, the wheels are spinning. It's the 3FM Toduga.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bill Lishen. Let's start from the camp of the Black Stars, where Lawrence Agyekum over the last few months has become a crucial part of Cercle Bruges' success and recently featured for the Black Stars, where he scored on his third game for the Black Stars. Now, in an exclusive with former Salzburg forward, my colleague Mutala Yakubu explores his inspiration and eventual stint with the Ghana senior national team.
The path to becoming a professional footballer is never easy. Many talented Ghanaian players have seen their dreams fade due to setbacks and lack of opportunities. But for those who persevere with determination and resilience, the reward can be remarkable, and Lawrence Agyekum is a prime example. Born and raised in Ashamine, Agyekum rose through the ranks at the West Africa Football Academy, WAFA, where he laid the foundation for his professional career.
Yeah, it started when we went for a tournament in Austria, Salzburg, in 2018, and then we won the tournament. So from that tournament, there were a lot of people watching, a lot of scouts, and then we went for another tournament in Côte d'Ivoire, Tida, and then we took the third position. And from that tournament, I got promoted to the first team.
He secured a move to Austrian giant Red Bull Salzburg, but was first sent on loan to their feeder side, FC Lefren. His steady development earned him a loan spell at Belgium side, Cercle Bruges. In just one season, Agyekum impressed the club's management enough to land a permanent 4-year deal, a testament to his growth and impact.
Yeah, their project was a good one for me, so I had to choose. The playing time, and it's a good one because I've really worked so hard to gain that contract, so I think it's a well-deserved one for me.
At just 21, the midfielder already has 3 caps for the Black Stars. He marked a special milestone by scoring his debut goal in Ghana's win over Trinidad and Tobago in the Unity Camp, a moment he describes as a dream come true.
I did have a dream. I had a dream that I scored my first national goal, I think before the Unity Cup collab. So for me, I was looking forward to scoring against Nigeria. My mom is Nigerian, so I just wanted to torment her a little bit. But it didn't happen. And then against Trinidad, fortunately for me, I did score, and then I was really happy that the dream came true.
From humble beginnings in Ashamine to the European stage, Lawrence Agyekum's journey is a story of grit, talent, and unyielding perseverance, and he's only just getting started.
That was the story there on Lawrence Agyekum, told by my colleague Mutala Yakubu. Now, Black Queens are stepping up preparations ahead of the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, and the team is scheduled to face 3 teams in friendlies ahead of that major tournament. For more perspective, let's hear from our women's football correspondent, Akosia AJ.
The team have already pitched camp in Morocco as coach Kemlas Bjorkegren hopes to fine-tune his squad ahead of the tournament. He's named 24 players for the Continental Showpiece, including Princella Adobia, Princess Mafo, and the likes, who he would hope that as the Black Queens make a return to the tournament, they will be able to progress out of the group stage. There are 3 international friendlies that have been lined for the team in the month of June. So starting from the 21st of June 2025, the Black Queens will play against Malawi. On the 25th of June, the team will play against Botswana. Then on the 29th of June, to wrap up all the friendlies, the Black Queens will then play an international friendly against the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Remember, the Black Queens are in Group C alongside South Africa, Tanzania, and Mali, and they play their group opener against South Africa in Ujda before they move to Berkane, where they will play against Tanzania and Mali.
Well, that was Akosia J giving the updates on the camp of the Black Queens. Now, let's go local, where Asante Kotoko has released 8 players as part of a squad overhaul following the conclusion of the 2024-25 season. The overhaul is aimed at building a stronger team for the upcoming CAF Confederation Cup. For more insights, let's hear from my colleague Richard Echampong from Akoma Sports.
The management of Kumasi Asante Kotoko has released 8 players who were part of the 2024-2025 league season of Kotoko. On Thursday, the management invited 8 players to a meeting at the club's secretariat, and in the evening of Thursday, a decision was reached that those 8 players cannot continue with Asante Kotoko. Shockingly, the first team captain and his deputy are part of the 8 players leaving Asante Kotoko. So Captain Ferry Kasari, as well as Justice Nkukuble, a fan's favorite, they've all been released from their contracts. I can also report that players like Michael Chejamana, then we have Samuel Tinedu, Samson Eduku, Isaac Ninja, and a couple of others have also been relieved of their contract with Asante Kotoko.
That was Richard Echampon there giving the updates of what's happening with Asante Kotoko. Now, in the camp of Hartlepool, Didi Dramani has been appointed the new head coach of the club, having signed a 2-year deal. He's expected to take over from the previous technical team and raise Hartlepool to the level that they want to achieve. That is winning the Ghana Premier League in future seasons.
Hartlepool have confirmed the signing of Masud Didi Dramani as their new head coach. Yes, he's a league winner with Asante Kotoko, having guided them to the 2012-2013 league and the 2013-2014 season as well. Rich in experience, has been an assistant coach at the Black Star level. Most recently at the 2022 World Cup, where he was an assistant coach to Coach Otuado. He comes with a lot of experience. He's been at Right to Dream. He's done women's football. Even under 23 level, Ghana failing to qualify for the last Olympic game. He was the head coach of the Black Meteor. So he comes in with rich vein of experience, but the Hartlepool squad will need to work extremely hard. He's a disciplinarian. He's somebody that demands a lot from the players.
That was Mutale Yakubu giving his insights on the snapping up of Masud Didi Dramani as the new head coach of Accra Hartlepool. Bringing an end to sports here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. We have Martin and the rest of the team with a lot more, so do stay tuned.
Get ready, Ghana. The road is calling. The wheels are spinning. It's the 3FM Tour du Ghana, happening Saturday, 21st June, 2025. From the heart of Accra to the border town of Aflao, we are paddling for the planet in a thrilling 192-kilometer ride. Get ready, Ghana. The road is calling. The wheels are spinning. It's the 3FM Tour du Ghana, happening Saturday, 21st June, 2025. From the heart of Accra to the border town of Aflao, we are paddling for the planet in a thrilling 192-kilometer ride across Ghana's scenic Eastern Corridor. Whether you're a scenic cyclist or a passionate paddle pusher, it's your moment to shine. Form your teams, grab your helmets, and race for glory in Ghana's biggest cycling showdown. Challenge your limits, conquer the distance, ride for sustainability, be part of history. To register, call 053-1100-927 or 053-2200-927.
3FM Tour de Ghana is proudly sponsored by Malta Guinness, Fruit Telly, Cola Naturals, Winter's Special Gari Mix, Kaya Hawk Bicycle by Trans-Sahara Industries, and partnered by Ghana Cycling Federation, DHL, Whoopee Car Rental. Proudly powered by 3FM 92.7 and TV3.
Still live on 3FM 92.7. We are coming to you from our studio here at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. You've been listening to Hot Edition on 92.7. And we are going on to some final stories before we take leave of you from the studios here at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. So, our top stories that we've brought to you on Hot Edition 92.7 include the fact that government says it has successfully evacuated a number of Ghanaian nationals from Iran to Turkey amid heightening conflicts between Iran and Israel. Also, the National Intelligence Bureau, the Narcotics Control Commission, and allied security agencies have destroyed $350 million worth of consignment of cocaine, which was impounded in the central region. 3 individuals are standing trial following the cocaine bust. And Appointment Committee of Parliament dismisses petition against Supreme Court Justice nominee, Justice Ackah boafo, that paved the way for him to be vetted earlier today, and he raised a number of issues during his vetting, indicating that he does not think that the Attorney General telling the nation about a number of cases they are pursuing is in and of itself a contravention of the law. He says lawyers speaking about the merits of a particular case is what is against the law, and asked that that particular issue be given specific attention so people do not flout the law. And just before we go, though, the Appointment Committee of Parliament has dismissed, some health-related stories now. The Western Regional Health Directorate has reactivated its public health emergency response team to combat mpox, while raising concerns over a spike in maternal deaths. There currently were 25 recorded maternal deaths between January and May 2025. Meanwhile, the Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson has called on the Regional House of Chiefs to advocate for upgrades in the region's health facilities, particularly the Ifia Nkwanta Regional Hospital. And so that is a major issue when it has to do with health that took place in the Western Regional Capital of Sekondi. And on that note, we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you very much for listening. I am Martin Asiedu Dartey. This has been Hot Edition live from the studios of 3FM 92.7 at Adesanwe Kanda in Accra. So we are reverting we'll bring you some more stories as you would want to stay with 3FM. But if you want other stories that you may not have heard, I would advise that you visit 3news.com, which is our website, and also follow us on the various social media platforms to be updated on any development as and when it does come up. And talking about events, we do know that there's a 3FM Tour du Ghana that you need to pay particular attention to. If you're a cyclist, well, maybe you need to pay attention. So I'll bring you the details of what you should be expecting regarding Tour du Ghana, which is led by 3FM 92.7. They'll be riding through some principal streets here in Accra and adjoining regions. So you do want to listen to the details so you can participate if you are minded to do so. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.
Get ready. Ghana, the road is